Okay, in this section we're going to look at echoes. Okay, an echo is when a sound wave reflects off a hard surface. So if we have someone here and they shout, the sound wave will travel at about 330 meters per second. Well, in every direction, but we're actually only interested in one. And if it comes into contact with, say, a wall or a cliff or some sort of solid object, what will happen is that wave will bounce back the ways and get into that person's ear, and they will hear their own voice. But there'll be a time delay because it takes time for the sound to travel out there and back again. Now, if you're asked to explain something about echoes, try and use the word echo and the word reflection. It's better than talking about it bouncing off and words like that. While that's true, you should use the scientific terms whenever you can. Okay, so an echo is when a sound wave is reflected off a solid surface. Now, what most of the questions we're going to be looking at today, they are just speed equals distance time questions. So, um, if we know the speed of sound, which is usually about 330 meters per second, it changes depending on the material. But in air, it's about 330, but it also changes with temperature. So you might get a question that says it's 300, 340, 320. Don't be too worried about that. But they will tell you what speed you have to take it to be. So let's look at an example. So it says a man fires a gun and here's an echo from the cliff after 4 seconds. How far away is the cliff? It should say here that the speed of sound is 330 meters per second. Okay, so let's look at this. We know that the sound's going to travel, so he fires a gun. And the sound, we're not talking about the bullet, but the sound, the bang from that gun, the sound wave will travel here and then back again. Okay, and we know that the time it takes for that is 4 seconds. We know that the speed is this value. So what we can do is we can do speed equals distance divided by time. 330 equals distance divided by 4. 330 multiplying both sides by 4 then will give us the distance, and that's 1320 meters, I think. And that's about right. However, here's the important thing when it comes to echo questions. In most, not all, but most echo questions, you're probably going to either have to divide by 2 or multiply by 2. They are just speed equals distance divided by time, but the key thing in this equation here is these two things need to be consistent. And by that I mean the time that we were given, the 4 seconds that we used in our equation, was the time for the sound wave to get from the gun to the cliff and back again. That means the distance is the distance from the gun to the cliff and back again. But that's not what this question asks. It doesn't ask how far the sound wave traveled. It asks how far away is the cliff. Now, therefore, if it's 1,320 meters from here to here and back again, at the very end, we're going to have to divide that distance by 2 to get the distance that it is from the cliff, and that will give us 660 meters. So most of these questions you're going to notice you're going to have to divide by 2 or multiply by 2. The thing is you have to make sure that the time is consistent with the distance. Now there's another way I could have done this question, which is, okay, I could have said at the very start, that time's 4 seconds, but that's the time from the person to the cliff and back again. Therefore the time the sound wave takes just to get from the gun to the cliff will be the time divided by 2, which is just 2 seconds. And then I could have put that into my speed equals distance divided by time. 330 equals distance divided by 2. Multiply both sides by 2 and it gives me the distance of 660 meters. So you can see it works there as well. So always get a little idea of what's going on in the question. I would be drawing diagrams like this and labeling them with distances and times and showing the path that the sound takes, and then decide if I have to multiply or divide by 2. Okay, so There are a number of questions that do get tricky in some places. Draw diagrams for them. Try the questions. At the end of all this, I will post a little video of the answers, but don't just go straight to that and look at them. Try and solve them yourself, and then if you get stuck, you can look at the video at the end for the answers, okay?